Fuck it. Do 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 do. That's right. We are here back again. We just recorded a breakup podcast. I did my breakup podcast, but I've taken the sweatshirt off now so that you can see it is a new podcast, new week, new pod. And this is the Potter Pod, which might become a series. I haven't really decided. It might be a one-off, but we need to talk about the wizarding world of Harry Potter. It's alcohol-free. Still doing dry January. Gave up on no sugar, but still doing dry January. But we need to talk about the wizarding world of Harry Potter. We need to talk Potter. This is the Potter Pod. Hashtag Potter Pod. Now, okay, I think the first place that we should start is with I want to address the controversy. I want to address the controversy. J.K. Rowling, people don't like her. People are mad at her because they claim that she's transphobic. But here's my point. Here is my point. Whether or not she is transphobic, and she's not. Whether or not she is transphobic, even if she was like, if it came out that she was like, hey, actually, I think the Germans had a lot of good ideas, and I think we got to get those camps going again. Let's get those camps running up and running again, because I hate these freaking gypsies and the other ones. But even if that was her opinion, if it came out that J.K. Rowling was like fucking Jeffrey Dahmer, or was just fucking going around Britain like murdering kids, if it came out that J.K. Rowling was a pedophile and she was like going to fucking orphanages and like molesting children, like a big time pedo, any of those, it doesn't matter. J.K. Rowling can do nothing in this world. J.K. Rowling could start a nuclear war and I'd still be like, she got a lot of kids to read. And that's my point. That's my whole point with this thing, is it doesn't, even if J.K. Rowling is transphobic, like, why do we care? Because she got so many fucking kids to read. Like, she delayed, the end of reading. Now obviously reading is dead. Nobody reads anymore. Like, why would you read? There's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's YouTube. Like, there's no need to read. No one reads. Why read? Fuck reading. Jokes. But I mean, it was already happening. There was Nickelodeon, fucking Rugrats. There was PlayStation and Nintendo 64. Like, all that good stuff was already coming out, and kids were already kind of like, I don't really fuck with books. I don't really fuck with reading. Why? Why would I read? I could play Super Mario. Like, why? Why would I read a book? And J.K. Rowling was like, no. No, you will read. You will get so into reading that you will go to bookstores at midnight and stand in line like it's a movie premiere just to get your hands on a book. And I mean, the level of excitement, if you didn't live through the Harry Potter book phenomenon as a child, I think you can't really grasp it, because I remember there was a kid in my elementary school named Alan Alleman. I probably shouldn't have used his full name. His name is Balin Balaman. We'll switch it to Balin Balaman. And this kid never fucking read. He didn't read for homework. He didn't read in class. He did not read. He didn't fuck with reading. He was like, reading's not my thing. I like TV. And I was like, I would love to like TV, but my parents won't let me have one. But But when the Harry Potter books came out, Alan read the Harry Potter books. It was the first, I didn't even know he could read. It was the first time I had ever seen him read. And that's like a story, I feel like, across the boards. Like, kids who didn't fuck with reading, they read the Harry Potter books. They got excited to read the Harry Potter. Kids who were into reading, they were like, it was a time. It was an era. And I mean, and the gap, the waiting, the years between the books coming out, I don't want to be a Harry Potter hipster here, but I'm going to be. I'm fucking going to be. But when the first book came out, we went to Oliver's bookstore. Shout out Oliver's bookstore. No longer there, but it was a great bookstore in my town. And the Harry Potter book was there. And I think there was a woman who worked there, and she suggested it to me. And I started reading it in the bookstore, and I was like, I like this. And I was like, Guy's going to have this book. My parents... Think about how insane this is. My parents were like, no, you can't have that book. You can earn some money and come back and buy it. And so I went and did chores for 2 weeks so I could get $20 American to buy the first Harry Potter book. And I bought it. And here's the thing. In the States, the Potter books, it was a ball of momentum. And the first book, people were people knew about it, but it wasn't the phenomenon it became. So when the second and third books came out, they were released first in the UK because Potter was already blowing up in the UK. Off the bat, Potter was killing it. And in the States, people were still like, it's reading. It's still a book. Okay, calm down, hold your horses, cool your jets, other sayings. It's a fucking book. Let's relax. We're in America. We all have TVs. Like, why do we need to read this book? By the third book, or the fourth book was undeniable. People were like, okay, fuck, we do have to read this book. And then someone was like, what if we made a shitty movie? But we're going to get to that. So it was still like a thing. And so it came out first. The second and third books came out first in the UK, and we ordered, this was the early ages of the internet. This was when Amazon only sold books. That's the era we're talking about. Maybe people don't know this, but Amazon used to just be a bookseller, an online bookseller. And so we ordered from the UK because it came out 3 months early, the second and third books, and I got those versions. So I'm a bit of a Potter hipster.
Better than you, my shape up better, my car faster, my drip better, my clothes fit better.
Not trying to brag. I don't know where that best sits. Oh God, it's the Omicron. Just kidding, folks. I'm not boosted. By the time you'll see this, I probably will be. But anyways, so it took a little while for the books to catch on in the States, I think. And but then when they did, Jesus, I mean, yeah, I remember going to the midnight things, it was in the newspapers. The new Harry Potter book coming out at midnight, people were lining up around the block. Everybody was like, have you read the new Potter book? Don't say anything. I haven't read the new Potter book. Who dies? It was a moment. And I don't think we haven't had a moment in reading and or literature appreciation, at least in the States, like that since. It hasn't existed. There has not been a reading phenomenon like that since. So my point is, if J.K. Rowling is transphobic, which she's not, who gives a shit? The amount of kids that read books because of her, she could have a high body count. She could just be murdering. She could be molesting. She could be sending, wanting to send people to the camps. And all she cares about is that, hey, let's not let trans rights accidentally trample women's rights. But it's not a political podcast. I just want to say that I stand by J.K. Rowling and fuck all these people who think that J.K. Rowling sucks. They're the worst. So yeah. And I just think about it. J.K. Rowling, think about how many fucking kids read. Nobody reads anymore. Nobody read then. And J.K. Rowling was like, boom, I'm going to make each one longer and you're going to like it more. I mean, imagine telling a kid today you're going to read a 500-page book. You're going to stand in line at midnight waiting to get your hands on a 500-page book that you're just going to fucking whip through. I mean, that is wild. It was a wild time, and she did that shit. I mean, now, of course, reading is over, so it's irrelevant anyways, I think they canceled books, but, that's fine. We have TikTok and, you don't need books anymore. But I just think that we should, lay off J.K. Rowling and just appreciate, what she did for the world. I mean, that is a global phenomenon that she did. And so that's my point. And that's why I wanted to just quickly touch on this. Also, that is why I love Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart's entire his time on The Daily Show shaped my entire political ideology. And, he always was talking shit on the Republicans because they're fucking dumb and stuff. And I feel like people remember that. But what people don't remember about The Daily Show is he was also he would call out the Democrats and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing anything to stop things? Are you doing anything to make things better? And I actually think that's part of why he left The Daily Show is he was after 8 years of Obama, it was just and nothing positive happened for the people. The country is still not doing great. It's not a politics podcast. It's a comedy podcast. Come on. Ben and Jerry's, huh? Ben and Jerry's. But anyways, there was this controversy where he was talking about how the goblins in Gringotts Bank. By the way, if you don't know Harry Potter, this is not the podcast for you. Just turn this off. Go watch something else. Watch the Breakups podcast. Watch any, or just fucking just go read the Harry Potter books. But he talked about in Gringotts Bank, the goblins in the movies. He was they look like a caricature. He was making a joke about how they look like a caricature of evil Jews or whatever. And then Newsweek, several weeks later, ran this headline where it's Jon Stewart slams J.K. Rowling for anti-Semitic caricatures of, Jews or whatever. And this is why I love Jon Stewart, is he came out and he's I didn't say that at all. I was making a joke, and I love the Harry Potter books, and it fuck Newsweek. And I'm yeah, fuck Newsweek. And people wonder why people don't trust anyways, Ben and Jerry's.
The only guys who treat me right are Ben and Jerry.
Okay. So I think the first thing in this Potter pod, now that we've, excused J.K. Rowling from, her anti-Semitic, transphobic penalties, is we got to talk about, books versus movies. Because here's the thing. When you tell people, if you want to really know if someone is into Harry Potter or not, or for me personally, the benchmark of do I respect your fandom of Harry Potter is it's just simply if I'm oh, I love Harry Potter, and you're oh, I love Harry Potter too. Those were great movies. Fuck you. Then fuck you very much. You're an uncultured piece of trash. There was a moment of reading in this country, and you didn't fucking do it. No, I mean, here's the thing. Books typically are they're better than the movie. They're just almost always better than the movie, with the notable exception of Lord of the Rings. It's the one time I feel they kind of pulled off the movie being better than the book, at least the first one. It's just, anyways. But the Harry Potter movies, I mean, they miss so much, and it drives me nuts because people love the Harry Potter movies, and I'm they're not good movies. I think I stopped watching them around number 4, and then I tuned in again at number 7, and it was just what? And I mean, they made also poor choices with continuity. They're supposed to be wearing wizarding robes, and at some point they were wearing just athletic apparel at Hogwarts that you could also buy at Big Five. It was a Gryffindor t-shirt with a lion, and I'm that's, in what wizarding world are you living in? Because that's not the wizarding world that I live in. really went high there. And so I'm like, what the fuck is that? And then at some point they're just like wearing street clothes and stuff. And I'm like, there was a time when you would wear Muggle clothes, but like the whole point is A, you're supposed to look stupid in the Muggle clothes, and B, like it was very specific situations out in the Muggle world. If you're existing within the Wizarding world, you should be wearing robes. Like they're meant to be wearing robes. And so I don't respect the movies. I don't. And I don't respect people who stand so hard for the movies. The only explanation I can have for these people who love the movies so much is just that they're like uneducated garbage, that they're total, imbeciles who don't understand like culture or art or good things. So that's the only explanation I can have for people who like the Harry Potter movies and I guess I have to assume they haven't read the books, because I just don't feel like you can have read the books and think that the movies are great. I don't think you can do it. And if you did, take a hard look in the mirror. I mean, reading is over anyways, so don't worry about it. Like your team won, but I mean, those movies do not like well represent the books, in my opinion. And I've said it for eons now. What they need is, and when I saw HBO bought Harry Potter, I was so excited because I was like, what this needs is that it needs a full like 14 episode, 15 episode season, hour-long episodes, like 15 hours per season. Each season is one book, and that's what the Potter world deserves, not 90 minutes. Like, how are you going to fit 500 pages in 90 minutes? I mean, you're hitting the broadest strokes. You're missing so much of what brings the wizarding world to life, the relationships, the people. I mean, Jesus. So yeah, I don't like or respect these people who are pro Potter movie. And if you're pro Potter movie, I mean, of course, I still would like you to, follow, like, subscribe, but, also go fuck yourself. So now here's the thing. If you are reading a verse, if you are like, Patrick, I hear you, I get it. Maybe you're right. Maybe the Potter movies are garbage and I'm an uneducated piece of shit for liking them. But like, what do I do? Because I'm not a reader. I'm not going to read. I don't read. Reading's been canceled. We're done with reading. We don't read. Reading is dumb. I get that. And there is a solution. Here is the bridge for me. Here is the bridge. If you like Harry Potter, if you're team books, not team movies, but you can't just do the books thing. The best Harry Potter movies you can watch, the best Harry Potter movies that you can consume are the Jim Dale narrated Harry Potter audiobooks. If you want to have a cinematic Harry Potter experience that doesn't involve reading, you gotta listen to the Harry Potter audiobooks narrated by Jim Dale. Very important that it's narrated by Jim Dale, who is a national treasure. I gotta throw his photo up there. I mean, Jim Dale is a fucking national treasure. And I want you guys to know, I did a little research and I started looking into Jim Dale. First of all, started out as a comedian, then was a singer. He did so much stuff I didn't know. All I want to know is he working on any projects to coming up for audiobooks, because that man is a natural born narrator. And I didn't find anything about that, but I did find Jim Dale's website. And I went on it and I was like, Jesus, what 14-year-old made this in 2006? But there was an email on there. And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I'm doing a podcast about Harry Potter, the Harry Potter audiobooks. I'd love to do a little phone or Skype interview with Mr. Dale. If he has time, I can see the email. I sent it. I was like, I'm trying to book guests out here. I'm out here trying to book guests. Jim Dale, it's an open invitation to come on the pod. Sadly, that shitty website is apparently not real or out of date or something. And so the email bounced back. So Jim Dale is not going to be on the podcast today. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, if you want a cinematic Harry Potter experience, it's the audiobooks. It's Jim Dale and the audiobooks, and that's the music I started with, you know. Let's if you listen to that again, dude, I mean that it gives chills. Like if anybody is listening that did fuck with the Harry Potter audiobooks, that music, I mean that sends a chill right down your spine. That it bangs, dude. The Jim Dale narrated opening music, shit. So I have to say you gotta go listen to the Harry Potter audiobooks. Just do it. Just fucking do it. Because do it for Jim. Do it for Jim and do it for Harry and the gang, you know? Don't do it for this bastardized Harry Potter world movie bullshit. They didn't even get the looks of so many things right, you know? Yeah, just it really gets in my craw. The books are so special, and Jim Dale, his narrating style. First of all, I love a British man. I love a British man who speaks the Queen's English. The Queen's English is mwah. You know, I mean, I also love a British man who speaks, you know, kind of like the poor person, the working man, the Welsh Italian English. Sorry, that was an inside joke for one person who isn't listening. So I love a British man just reading to me is delightful. But then, you know, the voices that he puts on for these characters, I mean, he brings Hagrid to life in a way that Hagrid in the movies is such a miss. You know, Hagrid is such a complex, beautiful character. And I'm just thinking about this now, but it is a bit fucked up. Like, why is he so close friends with these like 11-year-old children? Like what like kind of like hermit outcast groundskeeper, you know, like if you were in middle school and you started hanging out at your janitor's like shack that he lived in, that would be a problem. That would be like a big time problem for most people's parents and probably the administration. So yeah, I never really reflected on that. But no, what I wanted to say with it's like Hagrid, you know, he's like their friend, but he's also an authority figure, and he's also, you know, he's been kind of screwed over, and these are finally some people who see some good in him and don't downtrod on him, and that's what Lily and James were to Hagrid too, you know, R.I.P. Lily and James. But yeah, Jim Dale, his voice brings these characters to life so much, and it's just the best Potter experience, you know. I have to say, you know, obviously I'm a big time, if we're talking book versus movie, you know, the showdown, I am obviously on team book. You know, I am team book all the way because the movies are garbage. But I do believe the best Potter experience, the number one Potter experience that you can have is the Jim Dale narrated audiobooks. The voices for the characters, the you know, the tapestry of words that he weaves together it's amazing. It's just amazing. So, you know, I have to really commend him and just say that if you're a Potter person, I want to put out an olive branch now. If you're a Potter movie person, listen to the audiobooks. Just fucking listen to the audiobooks. They're so fucking good. Listen to the audiobooks and have your world just blown apart by realizing, especially, I have to say, like, you know, whatever movie, I don't remember which movie it was, but whichever Potter movie, like the night bus happened in, I just remember being like, they lost me. I was just like, this is not Harry Potter. This is not the Wizarding World. Are you even talking to J.K. Rowling and Jim Dale about like how to craft a Wizarding World? Because what the fuck is this shit? So yeah. let's take a quick pause. And when we come back, the second half of this Potter Pod is going to be I re-listened to the first episode of the first chapter of Jim Dale's narration, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, Book 1. Book 1, Chapter 1. Can we play that?
Chapter 1,
Yes.
The Boy Who Lived.
Jim Dale, dude. Book 1, Chapter 1, I re-listened to it and I was like, I fell in love. I wanted to binge it. And this is why I'm like, maybe Patchats just turns into me doing a chapter-by-chapter breakdown of the Harry Potter audiobooks. It won't be that, but maybe it will be. So when I come back from this little breaky poo, we're going to play a couple clips, talk about that first chapter, and I'm just going to try to, cast out the line, bring in some of these Potter movie fools, and then, if you're already a Potter audiobook person, then just go support the Ben & Jerry's GoFundMe, which you are about to see an ad for right now. Hello, welcome to the advertising break of the Potter Pod. Now listen, I've gotten a lot of feedback for the first time ever. No one's ever liked the pod. I'm going to just be honest. My moms don't like it. My friends don't like it. It's not a hot pod, if I'm being honest. And then I went on a rant about Ben and motherfucking Jerry and their goddamn nectar of the god bullshit half-baked ice cream. And my problems with the single sitting serving size, the half single sitting serving size that they have, and my drug addict Ben & Jerry's behavior, hiding my Ben & Jerry's consumption from friends and family out of embarrassment. And people seem to like that. People found that relatable, and they liked that content. And I was talking to a comedian, shout out Brendan Kinch, and he was like, dude, you should start a GoFundMe for Ben & Jerry's. And so here it is. I am launching my Ben & Jerry's GoFundMe. I need Ben & Jerry's on a weekly and sometimes bi-weekly timetable. I need it. I fucking need it to maintain sanity. And Ben & Jerry's is expensive here. I mean, it's not cheap in the States, but I don't buy it at the grocery store. If I'm buying Ben & Jerry's, it's in a moment of weakness. It's in a low moment. It's in a late moment. So I'm buying it at a Spady, which means I'm getting raked over the coals. €7, €8 for a pint of Ben & Jerry's. €7-8, pint of Ben & Jerry's. And that's expensive. I have, in a weekend, spent like €28 on Ben & Jerry's in a single weekend. And this is the type of shit that is gonna break me financially. So I am starting a Ben & Jerry's GoFundMe. If you want to fund my future diabetes, if you want to fund my Ben & Jerry's drug addiction-esque consumption, you can go to the link and you can fund my Ben & Jerry's problem. Just set, for as little as €9 a week, we can keep me on the B&J, on the half bead, the HB, the B&J HB, and that's my booster. That's my booster right there. I need a weekly booster of the B&J HB, okay? And I need to show my pass to keep my sanity. So go today, support more Ben & Jerry's content. I'm going to become a fucking Ben & Jerry's comedian if people keep giving me attention for my Ben & Jerry's rants. I'll do it every week. I'll do it because I'm a fucking sellout and I'll fucking do anything for some fucking likes. Welcome back to the second half of the Patchats Potter Pod. 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 PPP, Patchats Potter Pod. So I wanted to get into Chapter 1, Book 1, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And so one thing I wanted to play is from the first chapter, the Dursleys. I kind of, the thing is, that's another missed part of the movies. They don't fuck around with the Dursleys enough. The Dursleys could be more exciting, or better portrayed. You could the nastiness of the Dursleys could be better portrayed in the movies, I believe. So let's play this little clip.
What's his name again? Howard, isn't it? Harry. Nasty common name, if you ask me.
So the Dursleys think that Harry's name is a nasty common name, which is so funny. Just like such a funny idea, because they literally named their child Dudley. Like what? Like Dud is in the name. The first 3 letters is Dud. And you're like Dudley Dursley, and you're shitting on Harry? Like I'm not saying Harry's a great name by any means. I'm not. And it's hard to say. Like I don't even think Patrick's a great name. I've met a lot of other Patricks. Couple of them blew me away. Shout out Patrick Goebel. Shout out Patrick Ritchie. A lot of other Patricks, not for me. Not good Patricks. So I don't know if Patrick's a great name. But Harry is not like such a common. Do you know a lot of Harrys? Like, I don't know very many Harrys. So, first of all, and second of all, you named your kid Dudley. Like, what the fuck? Like that. What the fuck? Like, your kid's name is Dudley. What a terrible name. And here's the other thing about the Dursleys is they kind of just gloss over this, even in the beautiful wizarding world woven by J.K. Rowling, non-transphobe, and Jim Dale, like the Dursleys find out about magic when Petunia, her sister, becomes a wizard. She finds out about magic. She, at some point, I guess, she gets with Vernon Dursley, who sells drills. And I'm like, what a great, terrible name. I feel like that's probably why people are so mad at J.K. Rowling, is that it's like the Harry Potter world, it was built around a foundation of shitting on chads and normies, and it was meant for the weirdos, for the kind of the outcasts and whatnot. And yeah, I could say more about that, but and so then to feel like you're betrayed by that, even though you're wrong, it must be hard. But the Dursley, so Vernon Dursley, he marries this chick, and then he just finds out magic exists. And I think that's a funny thing about the books is these muggles who just find out magic exists and then keep going around their normal everyday life, sure, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, if I had a kid, these muggle-born wizard kids, if I had a kid and then when he was 11, some dude dressed up all weird sent him a letter and was like, hey, your kid has magic. Magic exists. Your kid has it, and can we take him? I mean, I feel like, was Hogwarts the first Epstein Island? Was it? It sounds like a child sex trafficking scheme, like a very bad child sex trafficking scheme. Yeah, so I don't get these muggles who just find out magic exists and then they're like, yeah, all right, sure, why not? I'll just keep selling drills. I'm not going to be out there selling drills if there's magic in the family. I'm like, bitch, you get your ass down to Gringotts, you get this family some gold, because I'm not working anymore. The day I find out magic exists is the day I retire. I'm done. All done work. I feel like there's, if I'm a muggle and I find out there's magic, that's a game changer for me. I don't just keep selling drills and also torturing a child, which we could get into maybe more later. But what the Dursleys do to Harry, where is Child Protective Services? Does that exist in the UK or just not in the wizarding world or what? Because I feel like a teacher or somebody should notice the condition that Harry is living in, and say something. Okay, let's play this next clip, please. This next
Nothing
audio
like
clip.
this
Shout
man
out
had
Jim
ever been
for the
seen
audio
on Privet
clip.
Drive.
Roll clip.
He was tall, thin, and very old, judging by the silver of his hair and beard, which were both long enough to tuck into his belt. He was wearing
Did I
long
wait
robes,
long
a
enough?
purple cloak that swept the ground, and high-heeled, buckled boots.
Okay, let's hopefully that was as long as the clip was. But, okay, when I heard this, I had to laugh because, one of the things that pissed people off, in a few years ago on the other end, J.K. Rowling was pissing people off on the other end of the spectrum, was at some point J.K. Rowling came out and she was like, yeah, Dumbledore is gay. Like, Dumbledore was always gay. When I wrote him as a character, I was like, Dumbledore is gay. And people were like, "Why? God, this imaginary wizard can't be gay. My whole childhood is a lie." Oh! Like, that was people. People were like, "No, not Dumbledore." People were so upset that Dumbledore might be gay. And then I hadn't gone back and thought about it. But you hear the description of Dumbledore showing up in his high heel boots, his bright purple robes with his bedazzled bright purple robes in high heel leather boots, and you're like, all right. Dumbledore was always gay. We just weren't looking for it. We're like, he's an eccentric wizard, and Dumbledore's like, yes. But Dumbledore was when you hear that description, you're like, oh, he's like an old queen. He's a very powerful old queen. The most powerful old queen. So yeah, I thought that was funny. Another thing, and maybe I can play the clip real quick here. Who knew that the T was silent? And I don't know if that's just Jim, but Voldemort, I always felt it was like Voldemort. The T adds the Voldemort, but Voldemort is I don't know. I don't know if I like it. I'm going to be honest. I thought the Potter pod was going to be stronger. I thought it was going to be a stronger pod. Maybe doing 2 pods in a row was a bad idea. Another thing I noticed is in the first chapter or two is J.K. Rowling spends a lot of time talking about the Dursleys' weight. She spends a lot of time body shaming Vernon Dursley, Dudley Dursley, Petunia, not for being fat, but her extremely long neck, And I don't know if, maybe that's the real controversy. It's not that J.K. Rowling is transphobic. It's actually that she's fatphobic. She's been shitting on the Dursleys this whole time for, their massive fat rolling over the sides of their chairs and being, like pigs and I mean, she literally turns Dudley into a pig. Like, she does that. She turns Dudley into a pig. And they're all fat. She talks about it all the time. Like, if when J.K. Rowling brings up the Dursleys, it's gonna be about something about how they're fat and mean and shitty. And so maybe the real controversy is that J.K. Rowling is fatphobic. Maybe that's the thing. Hashtag J.K. Rowling is fatphobic. Hashtag not a transphobe. Hashtag fatphobe. I don't know. Could be. It could be a fun controversy. Maybe Newsweek should run with that. But I did notice she really hates on the Dursleys for their weight. She really, really hates on the Dursleys for their weight. And Petunia for her long, strange neck. She spends a lot of time talking about no one looks good in the Potter. And that's another problem with the movies. Harry's super white, scrawny, hair overgrown that won't stay combed. Ron is like a ginger with also messy hair and schmutz on his nose all the time. Hermione's hair is bushy and has buck teeth. McGonagall is severe and Snape has a hook nose. There are no hot wizards. The only hot wizard is I guess Gilderoy Lockhart, maybe. I guess he's the one. He's a hottie. I was going to say Dumbledore. Dumbledore seems like, with the high heel leather boots and the bedazzled purple cloak, I'm like, Dumbledore, he's got a look. He's got something. But everybody else seems like big uggos, all the Potter kids are big uggos. Yeah. And now the last thing I wanted to talk about from the first chapter of Chamber of Secrets is Hagrid picking up Harry. Like the timeline, I don't get this timeline. So Voldemort goes to Harry's parents' house, James and Lily. He goes into the house, kills James, boom, dead, roasted. Then goes to kill Harry, doesn't want to kill Lily, is going to leave Lily. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Bad serial killer, bad serial wizard killer. And so then goes to kill Harry, but Lily, dies for Harry, which is why people think the spell bounced back. Spoiler alert. So Voldemort kind of explodes, loses his power. The house explodes. Harry lives. And then this is where the story gets a bit wonky for me. I'm like, so somehow Dumbledore knows that this happened, but he doesn't go. He sends Hagrid in the flying motorcycle. I feel like we want Dumbledore should be the first man on the scene. He's the A team. He should be number one guy there. And then I guess maybe you can't apparate with a baby in your hands. Maybe that's the problem. But it just seems weird. Hagrid, flies over there with his motorcycle and picks the baby out of the rubble. And I'm like, what about the bodies? Do you want to save? What are we going to do with the bodies of the two friends? It's a whole thing. And also how will we know for sure Voldemort lost his power and died? Dumbledore's it's fine, he's gone. How do you know that? How would you know that? Or are you just sending Hagrid into a potential death trap? Voldemort's still there, waiting. So I don't know. I thought that was strange. Well, I don't think this was a very good podcast, but I need some content because I'm in Thailand right now. Woo! That's right. I mean, hopefully, let's see. This is still the future, but then when this comes out, I would be in Thailand, and I was like, I got to record some stuff, and I can't do just all sketches. So I got to do some pods. I'm going to do some pods, and I was like, I'm going to do a breakup pod and a Potter pod, and this is the Potter pod. And the Potter pod was a little underwhelming, but here we are. I think we had fun. I think I brought up some good points. I think I uncanceled J.K. Rowling. We covered the canceling of reading, and we found some definitive evidence that Dumbledore's been gay since day one. He was a queen, capital Q queen. So, which is tight. I'm very pro Dumbledore being gay. I think that's awesome. I love a gay wizard. And I think we covered also that the Dursleys are fat. And that's gross. And that, if I found out about magic, I'm not just going to keep living my life and sell fucking drills. No, definitely not doing that. So that's the Potter pod. If you like the Harry Potter movies, remember to go fuck yourself. If you are open-minded, then definitely try the Wizarding World of Jim Dale's Harry Potter audiobooks. He's a national treasure. And of course, pleased to be supporting my Ben & Jerry's GoFundMe. I have an addiction. I have a ice cream addiction. And the Ben & Jerry's content got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback on the Ben & Jerry's content. And so I'm like, I got to lean into this. Time to lean. I'll be the Ben & Jerry's comedian, which I said this in an Instagram post, but I think it's funny, so I'm going to say it again. But, we spend a lot of time talking about the Sackler family and the opioid epidemic and what it's done to America. But we're just letting, the Ben & Jerry and the Ben & Jerry family just off the hook for what they've done to this world. Making this fucking ice cream that, we can't stop eating. I wanted to have one last night, and I was like, Jesus, I can't. It's too much. It still needs to be special sometimes, and I'm like, it's too soon, So I didn't have any Ben & Jerry's last night, but I wanted it. The problem is I always want it. I could have a pint of Ben & Jerry's every single day. And that's why you should be pleased to be going to support my Ben & Jerry's GoFundMe, support my Ben & Jerry's addiction, support my Ben & Jerry's habit. It's important. It's very important that we get me diabetes for the cause, you know? So, yeah, pleased to be supporting that. Thank you to comedian Brendan Kinch for the idea. He told me, dude, you should start a GoFundMe for people to buy you Ben & Jerry's. And I'm like, I should, because I'm spending a lot of my money on Ben & Jerry's, and it's expensive here. It's like €7 a pint, €8 a pint if you buy it at the wrong time of day. Fucked up. And so pleased to be supporting that. Subscribe, like, rate, review, podcast nonsense, social media nonsense, follow, all the bullshit. Thank you. Shout out to Jim Dale. Always fart in public. That's the podcast. Good night.